So yesterday started out like a pretty normal Saturday here on the farm. We did our chores early in the morning and headed out to church and had a wonderful service. It was a beautiful day. We enjoyed a really nice picnic lunch, and then we headed home so we could check on our animals and enjoy the rest of our Sabbath. And as we were on the way home, I was opening my Bible to read while we were driving and just happened to fall open to Job 1. And so I started to read that. And then shortly after reading the story of Job and wondering why I was reading that story, but feeling impressed that I should read it, we have a CB in our truck, and we heard some calls come on. First, there was a tree down across the highway behind us, so where we had already driven through. And then we heard more calls come on that there was trees falling down all over. And we thought, man, what's going on? Because where we were, the weather was fine. Then we looked behind us, and there was green clouds, big, green, stormy sky behind us, and it was coming up behind us. So we knew we had to hurry and get home. That's when everything changed for the day.
To see what the difference is between yesterday and today, because when I took the footage yesterday, it was getting near dark, but after dark the grader came along and, as far as I know, pushed most of the bush
I think
off.
we're gonna see the road being pretty cleared yesterday when we came out of our driveway. So it was completely across the road, and thankfully we were able to cut and shove them off, roll some of them. Some of them was once we got the skid steer going. And it was just great to see everybody getting together right away and pitching in. There was so many chainsaws going, and tractors pushing the logs off, backhoe, skid steer. Everybody was making sure the road got clear again, because there's been so much devastation everywhere that we just knew that we needed to get it clear and make sure all the neighbors were good. There's another one just right across the road. Look at those beautiful trees, but for the most part it always seemed to be a lot of poplars. Listen to those birds just praising God, eh?
Yep.
There's another one. So they did push a little bit off, but
They didn't change much from
they
when
didn't
we had it
change a lot
yesterday.
from when we cut and pushed off. There's a little bit more. And as you can see, it just kind of keeps going like that. So we had to drive through this yesterday. We managed to get most of the way home before the storm hit. We were kind of ahead of the storm. And when we got to the adjacent road to our road, the storm hit. And to come down our road with all these trees waving we were just praying and pleading with God, and not sure we would make it before the trees came down. But God is merciful. We rested in His care. I managed to drive down the road, get in the house, get in the basement before the storm hit this road. And when we came out, we were just amazed to see all of this. God is very good, because not one of our outbuildings with our animals was damaged. Our animals were all fine, and we were fine. And well, I'll show you more. So between us and our neighbors, the power poles are definitely damaged. There's going to be a lot of power poles that need to be repaired. This one's twisted. It's actually worse at our neighbors. They're actually down on the ground. Oh, we haven't come up this driveway yet. We did come up the other walkway through the garden yesterday, just
Driveway held up
to
pretty
see
well.
how the building site was. So this maple went on the side of our driveway. And this pine tree managed. And the trailer, amazingly, was providentially spared. Unfortunately, the 2 pines we were saving near the house, I guess our driveway can be wider now, because this pine snapped and went down this way, but unfortunately this pine snapped and fell on the foundation. So I have to say that I feel God prepared me for this. I knew before I came up that it wasn't going to be in good shape. We were getting ready to pour this Tuesday, and so we had set up the blocks on top, and that was probably a mistake, because otherwise the blocks would have all been lying here, and that's probably my fault, because I was trying to push hard to get this done. So anyway, we have to see today, if it doesn't rain too much, we got to see what blocks are damaged, what blocks can maybe be repaired.
The bugs should survive.
And thankfully this side is good, that side is good. Some of the blocks just got carried away, so we'll go gather them, and yeah, it's not as bad as I originally thought when we came up and came from the other side.
These sides can just be quickly put together again.
And I mean, if we have to, we can borrow from there. We had enough block to go all the way down, or most of the way down. And that wasn't the original plan, but because we put them out and we had extra. I guess I should zoom out so you guys can see a little better. So this tree went.
Some of these blocks might be alright, it's hard to say. There might be some, maybe 5 or 10 blocks that are okay down there.
Yeah. So there goes that pine tree. But you know what? God's timing is incredible, because if I had had my way, we would have had a house up already. If it hadn't been for half load season hitting before we could get the foundation in, the driveway in, who knows? We might have had a house that the tree might have fallen on. So God's timing is great. He's been so good to us. So, I don't know if you remember me talking about how I was really sad that that maple went down, that Gord cut it, but he was afraid it would fall in the house someday. Well, I have to be thankful that he took them, because if those had fallen, they might have ruined this side of the foundation. And unfortunately, my favorite maple over here lost half. This was, you know, where I wanted our living room and dining room windows to face, so that we could see out here and over the hill and look at the maple. And anyways, I'm thankful because half of it is still here, and obviously this part was rotten in the center, so it would have went someday. But wow, look at it. It was a big tree.
There's actually two big trees drawn together looking at the core.
Yeah. And you know what? This one got a little bit of damage with the other one coming off. I guess the branches probably were intertwined, but
that's this piece right here.
It's gonna do fine. How does it look on this side? Does it look like it's... Yeah, I think it's sound. All right, well, guess we'll continue on down to the greenhouse. So this is the insulation that used to be on the ceiling of the back of the greenhouse inside. The wind whipped it out, I guess, while the plastic was up. This greenhouse has been hit once before. It had taken the plastic off. It was during the winter, and so we had lost some of the trees that were inside. So I'm so glad that this time... Sorry?
There's a bunny right there.
I don't see him, but oh,
Right
there
there.
he is. Hey, Mr. Bunny. Oh, he's so cute. Anyways, so I think today we're probably going to try to take the plastic off before the rain comes and causes any more damage.
Shouldn't be too hard
To the inside.
The track separate.
Yeah, it's mostly ripped out of the track, so we should just be able to put it... Sorry. We should be able to pull it off. You know, this is amazing to me. Because these doors, we didn't have time to think about the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And we barely got in the door, like Gavin said, before the storm started. So the fact that I had these propped open in the wind, one managed to smash closed, the other one stayed open, but they never got broken. So it's amazing. And look, none of our plants were blown over with all that wind coming through and all the damage that was done. I think that all our plants have survived. And they can still be harvested. And it's the time of year that hopefully we won't get frost. So this time I think that the greenhouse is I think at least a whole bunch of it is beyond repair. We'll probably have to start over. That's okay. Some of them came out of the ground, and this is the side that the forceful winds were on, so it really just bent them. So as you can see, all down this side is bent, but didn't crush the plants. All our pepper plants are still doing fine, and our herbs, everything's good.
You and the barrel stove and all that, all right?
Yep.
Yeah,
The chimney kind of is funny. But hindsight, I wish I had had the plastic down, because here there's no damage. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say whether it would have mattered. But can't go back, and we definitely didn't have time to be out here throwing rocks on it, and even if we had, they probably would have came out of the rocks. I mean, this side came out of the track, so it's hard to say. Oh, our lettuce is a little dirty, but other than that, oh, you can see this is where the force really came through. It like blew the road cover apart. But the plants are still standing. Our sunflowers and lettuce and kale. And thankfully we hadn't planted anything in that bed yet. So this one, it did, even though the trellis came down, it didn't hit the sunflower.
Looks like that one did crack the bed.
Oh yeah, it might have. But you know, there's nothing planted in that bed, so we can fix the bed. And look at this, Gavin. All our little tomatoes and peppers are doing just fine. A box landed beside them, but not on them. The Swiss chard bed is a little bit close, but I think it's probably still okay. Look at that. Just fine. I'm gonna peek through and see if I can get to the Swiss chard bed here. Yeah, so the back of that one's broken, but the front and sides is fine, and I think it's just maybe the top border too. And the plants are still not damaged. And over here, the rhubarb and sunflower and herbs are fine. And all these plants are doing great, considering how the wind must have came through. So the front and back didn't have the plastic up, and it didn't bend. I think that pretty much answers my question as to whether the plastic should have been down. I'll just take some video from the outside. Oh yeah, haven't been over here yet. So yeah, my fault. We had raised the plastic, and it's quite a bit of work to raise and lower it all the time with all the rocks. So we had mild nights, and the days get hot so fast in the morning, we just left the plastic up and tied it up.
And there wasn't that much warning for this thing.
And yeah, we weren't home, so we had no warning, just enough time to get in the house. But yeah, that does answer the question that if you're going to have a storm and you have a greenhouse, make sure the side's down. Because only where the side was up is there damage. So how many ribs are damaged? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, possibly 12, because that one's still a little bit, unless it's popped out. 12. We probably have 5, 10. So we have maybe 12 damaged on this side and 10 probably good, just a guess. But look at that. The flowers are fine. The apple blossoms are still out. And
oh, our solar panels.
oh yeah, well, that's okay. You know what? We haven't went up yet to see if they're damaged or if it's just... But look at that. Our house is literally parallel to the greenhouse, and all the winds were hitting it and going in the front porch and bringing water in. And yet still not a window broken, other than the solar panels being down on the roof. Everything's great. Panel is fine, perfect. Even like these big trees, none of them came down, except for there was one that was already half down and I was worried about Gord having to remove it. And now it's down, so that's good. So amazingly enough, none of these panels are damaged. None of them flew off. Especially this one should have kind of taken a little bit of the wind because of the fact that the wind was coming from behind. But they are all fine. So we were able to have power. And that's more than can be said for our neighbors. So we're thankful for that. And what's so amazing to me is with all that wind, last year we didn't have very many apple blossoms. Well, we had very few apples, but we had very few flowers as well. And amazingly, through that storm, the blossoms are still intact on the trees.
And that one's covered.
Hmm?
And that one's covered.
And yeah, that one's covered. The chum is just covered. So it looks like we'll have more apples this year. They're not all flowering. I'm not sure what happened last year and why still this year there's some not flowering.
Looks like there's potential for lots of them on this grafted branch.
Yeah, we had some good ones on that last year too.
That's nice apples.
It's a grafted branch right here. And I think it was a Honeycrisp, but I can't remember. It would have been Honeycrisp or Red Cortland, I think.
Good eating apples, a lot better than the wild ones.
And look at this. It's a wild apple, but it's beautiful. And it still provides food.
Oh wow, look at this one. This is something we're gonna see as we go through the bush.
Oh boy.
This was
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Oh boy, going through the bush after all this and seeing how many trees are down.
snapped right out of the stump.
Wow. And this
Lots
one
of
came over
firewood.
with the roots. Oh, please tell me it missed my nut tree. Oh. Well, it missed part of it, at least.
It missed it.
Look at that. Wow. What a hole.
There's bugs in it.
Look at that though. Like, stand beside it so that you can get some sort of idea of how big that is.
And this is down the road from us. There's a few pine trees that were growing on bedrock, so they weren't rooted very well. And that's like a whole section of the forest just tipped on its side.
Yeah. So the nut tree actually did get missed. Wow. I see God's hand of mercy in everything. It still has some winter kill, mind you, but there's definitely some life still here and there. The nut trees kind of struggle here. It's a heart nut, but it's still living and growing. And look how many maples are left. Blessings all around. It's full of blessings. I mean, look, that big one, Gavin, on the hill.
Yep.
Is still there.
Some, it's funny, because some...
And even the ones that have fallen over, they'll produce lumber
And firewood.
and firewood, yep.
It's going to be interesting. I might take the quad out sometime later, because it's going to be interesting to see what the bush, like when you actually get way into
Oh, that was the
bush,
hummingbird.
what it looks like, and how many trees are down across the trails.
Yeah. Well, amidst the storm, God preserved. He preserved all of our neighbors and all of their houses and most outbuildings, animals, livestock, lives. God is good, very good. We are surrounded by his blessings. Hope you guys have a wonderful day.